Welcome to Break Free to Brilliance podcast, empowering women in business through thought-provoking interviews and insights. Embrace your authentic power, explore the impact of your story, and discover how writing your best-selling book can amplify your message, authority, and the 3 I's: impact, influence, and income. Let each episode guide you towards brilliance in minutes. This is your host, Seema Giri. So our next speaker is someone who's built global impact by combining structure with soul. Upendra Giri is a global business strategist, 3-time international best-selling author, and founder of Upbuild Global. He's advised Fortune 1000 leaders across 25 countries and pioneered frameworks like Value Now and Value Ops. And Upendra will show us how leaders can use clarity, cadence, and purpose to create flow in the age of AI. So if you're wondering that he has the same last name as mine, you are correct if you have guessed that he is my life partner as well as my business partner. So please welcome Upendra Giri.
Thank you very much, Seema, and doing a wonderful job in bringing these thought leaders from across the globe. The only question I would have, I would like to see more men in participating in this conference and this summit moving forward. But each one of us, in the world we were born, we don't necessarily live in the same world. For me, last 10 years have been of course, we grew up with this thought that change is a law of nature, but hyper change is law of nature. I was not sure. And that belief changed for me when COVID hit. And that belief changed for each one of us. And we created new beliefs with that. And not only that, and after that, of course, we are in the era of AI, and everybody is being impacted with this new buzz and the bug in the system today. AI is all over the place. But before I get on to frameworks, methodology, systems, technology, I would like to take you back because, when Jim was sharing the historical case study, it was very inspiring. And there's so much to be learned from battlefield to for the battle cards, from war rooms to boardrooms, but history has a lot to teach us. And I would like to take you on a journey about 5,000 years old. Back in India, there's a place called Kurukshetra, and there's a warrior who is a prince. He's in between two armies stemming from the same family because they love so much, but they love ends up being brittle many times, and he's stuck with this question. Question is about purpose. Question is about duty. Question is about cost of action, cost of consequence. When you make a choice, you many times don't know the consequence of the action which you are taking. And with that, the modern leaders can learn from the Kurukshetra complex decisions, conflicting stakeholders. And let me see what this small video will. I want to just play this. It's not going to last for too long. Can you hear this? Seema, can you hear this? Seema, can you hear this? Hello?
Yes, we can hear it.
कर्मण्येवाधिकारस्ते मा फलेषु कदाचन मा कर्मफलहेतुर्भुः मा ते सङ्गोत्स्वकर्मणि मा फलेषु कदाचन
So in in this picture, what he talks about is about the karma, the dharma, and the phala. So making right choices, owning the action and the consequence. He's stuck because both sides are his own families, and he's not sure how to make the choice. So his coach, his guide, Krishna, tells him that action is the only thing which you can own. The fruit of that action is not in your control. And many times, most of the leaders today are stuck in the chaos, confusion, and clutter. How do we make choices? And that's where the biggest threat for businesses today is about relevance. Can we sustain it? Because we are running without really feeling it, what is we stand for. The systems we have created because without system thinking approach. But can we grow with the same speed in the future as well? Irrelevance is not caused by lack of innovation, it's caused by misalignment. And when we talk about irrelevance, these are some of the silent killers, right? We just talked about. But the biggest challenge is when we optimize, when the vision make visible to deliver the velocity to that, and that's when you deliver value. So we have optimized for velocity, but forgotten depth. When purpose fades away from the center of your business, perception follows close behind. Well, the answer to this is disconnection is we need to look at most of the leaders are at the crossroad. And the question is, the answer to that would be, what is our why? Return to the fundamental reasons your organizations exist actually. Refocus on the clarity and then of course align with the every decisions which you make. So the idea is the value now. When I thought of value now as a concept, you can create value, but by living in the present. But value has a different meaning to different people. And most of the time, it starts with the intention which you set, because intentions are built on your belief system. Because somebody said, or it was said in Gita about 5,000 years back, it is the belief which makes you what you become. And it starts with the intention which you set. And more clarity you have about your intentions, your karma, your action becomes much easier. So the breakdowns which you will see, the biggest breakdown in the business today is misaligned execution. So this could be because of motion without meaning. We are running without just knowing where we're heading, and processes without presence. So the whirlpool of processes, on top of that, we have the outcome must be owned. There has to be some level of accountability, because doing more isn't the answer. Doing what matters with clarity and care is. Flow isn't about pace, it's about purposeful progression that reflects your values. But then how do we go about delivering the value when there's a breakdown at different levels? So I come from project program management background, and in last 6-7 years, I've been helping large transformations. I can speak for two of them. There are two cities in India. They are going through massive transformation. One is Varanasi, the most spiritual city on the planet, I would say, and I think one of the oldest city also, 5,000-year-old place. And since inception, it has not been demolished. But they are going through revival transformation, which I had a pleasure of participating in that particular initiative to set up a program management office for them, so that the execution can be done keeping the gap between intention and action can be removed. That's what you need to look at. Where is strategy disconnected from the operation? That's what I find. You find probably most of the cases. And task completed without meaning. So, and also the teams are moving, but they are not necessarily aligned. So this is what I see in last 25 years in most of the companies, corporations. At intention, if you ask a CEO in the probably in the elevator, and you just ask them, what are the top 3 priorities for the company, or if you ask any individual who run their own companies, you will find they are not coherent. In their, what is the agenda which they are chasing? What are the goals they are chasing? Are these the smart goals? Are these the roof shot goals? Or these are moonshot goals like Elon Musk? And you know how Elon Musk works, right? On his moonshot goals. He would go out to his people. He would say, oh, what can we do in next 10 years time? And the team will go and they will come up with their own plans. And they would say, this is what we can achieve in next 10 years. Then this is great. This is what we want to achieve. But we would like to do in 1/5 of the time, probably in a 2 years time. And that's where your alignment becomes much more crisp, because that's, the clarity has to be to a very fine level. So the flow of work, building soul systems, aligns strategy with the delivery, embedded with the values in the workflows, and build systems that reflect your soul. And this is where we are looking at building the flow-based operating system. And this is where we look at the energies, the chakras, and we are looking from 7 stages of flow-based systems, where you set your intention at the very first level. Then you get into second stage of the stage of this value creation, that's called ideation, where you look at divergent thinking. And then, of course, if you stay in the divergent thinking, it's about your emotional aspect of connecting with the problem. And then if you stay in the divergent, you cannot get the action done. You will never put it to karma action. So you need to do the divergent thinking to convergent thinking. That's where you take it to third stage. That's called intake process. That's where you look at your capabilities and your capacity building, which you can cater to, and you can only take that bite which you can digest, and that goes into the fourth stage. That's where implementation goes. And that's where I spent 2.5 decades of portfolio, program, and project management. And that's where you really create the where rubber meets the road, actually. And that's where you create the fifth eye. It's about impact which you create. And then getting into the next stage would be where try to avoid the failure. And that's where you need to keep looking at the real failure isn't about failing behind, it's forgetting what matters. So are we measuring the right matrix? That's the key. And for that, we use OKRs, objective and key results. Some of you might be familiar. And that's what is rubber. That's where exactly you make the wonders happen. So in the today's system, you will see intelligence without intention. So much focus on automation. We lose the essence of why we started the workflows to begin with. Efficiency without emotional equity. Very interesting concept. If we are not committed, we are not bought into the system, we don't have intentions to deliver, it would not necessarily happen. So creation without consciousness. I'm an environmental engineer. I'm a tree hugger. For 32 odd years back, I studied climate change. And I would like to see some of it happening at a faster pace, especially when AI would drive so much load on the grid, eventually energy grid. And then, of course, the deficit for the climate equity. And that's would like to see how these systems, these frameworks, this methodology could really help. When automation outpaces intention, value disappears. So we have to revisit that so that we can remove the failures from the system. So what matters the most? You must measure. What gets measured gets done. Feedback should never be ignored, and lessons lost in the rush, because when you are in the execution stage, nobody has time to document and make it archival for other teams to come and follow those learnings and make part of their journey. And growth drive reflections forgettable. Many times that's what happens, and we see that all the time. Well, feedback and reassessment. And this is what the key is. When you set your goals, whether it's smart, a roof shot, or moonshot, you need to keep reassessing that, because those goals are set with certain assumptions and constraints which are continuously changing in changing times. So you must have noticed, all of you must have noticed that we plan something and plan fails. It's not that you failed, it's just the circumstances were so different that you are thinking the plan is no more working. But if you fail to plan, you planning to fail, it means that every stage of the journey which you are walking through, you need to keep revisiting your assumptions and constraints and keep reassessing the situation. And as you build the perception and the reality, the gap is where that's where the biggest challenge is for the global leaders today. So it's all about managing the perception. It's about managing the understanding the realities. And then if there is a gap, that gap has to be abridged by setting the making right choices, taking chance, and keep contributing towards in the changing world, which I call it hyper changing environment today. So listen deeply, refine as you move along, and what worked for you, you need to make sure you institutionalize that work and make it part of your DNA. Whether you are a small entrepreneur, solo entrepreneur, or large enterprises, because I cater to large enterprises myself, I see that these concepts can be applied to whether you are a one-person company, and especially with AI today. We used to have 350 employees at one given point of time, but the world has shifted to a lot of beliefs have changed. Of course, large teams used to perform, but of course, with the AI and intervention of AI, you don't necessarily need a large pool of people, because managing people is a difficult task to begin with, because there is a lot of challenges come with that. That's where Jim talked about, and Pamela also mentioned some of the areas, the value to be measured in form of the real value you deliver to the organization. So the culture has to be of learning and growth oriented culture. And that has to have the reflections from the past, learn from your mistakes, what worked, what did not work, what would you like to see continuously in the future. Those reflections have to be looked at. And we are looking at, making powered by analytics, insights and the impact, learn, adapt, and build what lasts. Reflection is a luxury. It's the foundation of legacy. And that's what I would say, that in Value Now framework, we are putting three engines together with the one mission. The very first is answers your why. It's actually, if you've seen the work of Simon Sinek, he talks about most people know what they want, which is the outer layer actually of golden circle, what they want. But most people don't know how to go about it, but why they are doing it, which is the most important answer. And that's where we are. Define your value before you deliver it. Build a strategy anchored in the purpose. That's the number one step. Number two talks about flow aspect of it. I'm sure you must be familiar with the flow concept, where you are challenged for a particular skill. So when your challenge is a little higher than the skill you possess, you will always find yourself in the flow. If the challenge becomes lower than the skill which you possess, so many times it leads to boredom and you are not disengagement. If you're not engaged, if you're not involved, you cannot contribute, you cannot create, you cannot make the future happen. And with that, you need to look at, as I said, learn, adapt, and build what lasts. Turn feedback into fuel for growth. And together, these three engines help organizations they not only survive, but they surpass their expectations. They build businesses with soul, systems, and stories, and then it has to be meaningful. So, folks, your chariot is waiting for you. Act with clarity, lead with legacy, build with soul. And that's what it's in a nutshell. I could talk about it. Your story becomes your system. Believe in your story, believe in yourself, build consciously, and align with the purpose and the practice of for the creating the future tomorrow. The question is no longer whether to lead with consciousness. The question is, when will you begin? For me, COVID gave a perspective that gave me a reflection. I slowed down. I reflected on the past. I started looking at the history much closer. I wished I studied history. I only studied just to pass my grades, get the good grades. That's what. So with that, my invitation to you is build your career, design systems that align intention, focus, and context into a unified force of transformation. Find your rhythm. The flow operating system can help you do that to lead your cadence into transformations, and then align your soul, because value now can be your compass, the North Star that keeps you oriented towards purpose and the chaos. And a uh, deliver your legacy, transform your story into a system, make your values visible, lead with consciousness. Join this is an effort, and I see that it will evolve over a period of time when there's a clutter, chaos, and confusion all over the place, and then potential and possibilities what AI can offer to the people at individual teams and enterprise level. The opportunities are immense. So somebody said, will AI take your job away? I would not necessarily say that, but somebody who has AI capability under their wings, yes, they would supersede. Because somebody said there are two paths which you have to choose. One is right path or one is wrong path. On the right path, you would notice that everybody is running. And if you slow down on the right path, you will be run over. So on the right path, you have to run. So adoption of AI in everybody's life at the right path today. And wrong path, you can be by yourself. Nobody will bother you because you're alone there. So whether you're a solo entrepreneur, individual, team, enterprise, this is the time for you. So thank you very much for listening to me. And I let me know if I can
Thank you.
answer any questions for you.
Thank you, Ben. Thank you so much. I love how you grounded innovation in soul and structure, and this was also very deeply insightful. So, if you have any questions for Open, please put it in the chat, and we'll definitely answer it. But Open, you know what stood out to me was that you said that many entrepreneurs chase alignment, but they struggle to sustain it. How can they tell when their business has drifted off purpose?
Well, many times, see, if you have seen that most people just get into a role just by way of whether we were influenced by somebody's thought or somebody's presence. As you know, the thoughts become our words, words become our actions become our habits, and habits become our character, and character becomes our destination. So many times, if you look at in this entire journey, these are various steps, right? You will find that there was something which took you away from what you meant to be, and that happened several times with me in past as well. You know, you stood for something. You are here on this planet because you are destined to do something. You are here to create a difference in people's life, and we start with that core purpose, core perspective. But many times, things happen, circumstances happen, and that's why you have to always give a room for making mistakes, so that the only way to come back and reflect back and look in the past where certain choices which you made led to the consequence which you are in. The only way to correct it to reflect back and be further aligned to the purpose of being. That's how I see it.
And I want to take a moment to mention that the content shared in this podcast is for educational and entertainment purposes only. My guests and I share personal experiences and real life examples that have helped us live our best lives, much like friends sharing stories. While we strive to provide valuable information, it's important to consult with professionals for advice tailored to your individual circumstances. Thank you for being part of our community, and thank you for spending this time with me. Remember, your story is your strength. Until next time, stay inspired and keep making a difference. Thank you for tuning in to this episode of the Break Free to Brilliance podcast, and I hope you had some key takeaways that you can implement right away. Be sure to subscribe to Break Free to Brilliance wherever you listen to podcasts. You can also follow along with us on social media using the links in the show notes below. We'll see you again for the next episode.